So, this is the models of magic. Now, I was on a YouTube search looking for more information on the information model. I was looking to see if there was maybe a different take on it or something along those lines, and I was sadly disappointed by the level of information that is out there on the models of magic. So I thought, well, why not make a video on it? Because that way I can give some proper information and hopefully people will see what's going on. Now, a quick caveat for the 5 models of magic. They are just maps. They are not the territory. They are a clue as to how magic works. Just a clue. Okay? Now, we're going to start with the first one, which is the energy model. And anyone who's ever seen a chakra chart and has seen the rainbow upside down, anyone who has looked at Reiki and seen that there is a Reiki energy that you can draw into yourself, anyone who's seen anything like that, spiritual hands-on healing, that's the energy model of magic. It relies on you having a belief that there is an energy system either under the ground or inside a space, or you're surrounded by it, or you can generate it yourself, and that you can then suck it into what's called your dantian, which is your little kettle or your little cauldron, and you can mix it into different colors and then you can use it. That's, in the nutshell, because this is a quick one, that's the energy model of magic. Okay, then we move on to the spiritual / deity model. Animism fits in here. Animism is where there are little animals, spirit animals, like the fox in Japanese Shinto, or the Norn, or the water. What's the thing that lives? A water sprite, or fairies, or pixies, but also gods, angels, genies. The jinn fit inside the spiritual model. Gods fit inside the spiritual model because they are essentially overriding spirits. They are all-encompassing, all-knowing. It's why you can use Christian Yahweh. You can use the Christian Yahweh or any of the Canaanite gods. You can use El or Baal, assuming you can understand where they come from, what they are. As long as you have an understanding, you can use the Hellenistic pantheon or you can use the Egyptian pantheon. If you are like me, a Norse-descended white Christian, white pagan male, white middle-class pagan male, you cannot use African traditional religions. They are not open to you. They are closed. And the reason they are closed is because the struggles that we have had have nothing to do with Anansi. They have nothing to do with Papa Samdi. They have nothing to do with Papa Legba. They have nothing to do with Madam Bridget. Our religions, our struggles are based on, for me, a white middle-class background. So I wouldn't touch the Loa or Brua. I would avoid those things. I'm not a hoodoo man or a voodoo man or a Brua man or a root worker. Those things inside of that model are not mine. Now, if I choose to use poppet magic, that's distinctly different to being in an African traditional religion and using root work. All right? Dolls are not specific to hoodoo. Poppets can be used because poppets are open. Hoodoo, closed. There's always going to be an analog between, say, Papa Samdi, who is the loa of luck and good luck, good fortune, and say Njord of the pagan, of the Norse pantheon. So there's always going to be an analog. It might not be an exact fit. You might have to use two of yours for one that you think would be a better fit, but you can always find a way around. You just have to Google search and you will find a god that will fit. Okay? But the spirit model, the deity model, that's model number 2. Model number 3, the psychological model, uses technologies in NLP, advancements in NLP, uses cognitive behavioral therapy, uses Jungian psychology, right? And the archetypes within. So if you're looking at gods, you say, well, each god is actually an archetype of the self. And I can, if I invoke that god and use a god form assumption, elevate myself to that level. And therefore, I don't need to petition that god. I can just use that god to elevate me in a certain direction. And NLP will tell you, if you visualize yourself growing into this space, then you will grow into this space. It was Milton Erickson that once said, all life is role play. So you have to pretend that what you're doing as, say, a manager is what's supposed to be done. And people will fall in line as long as your role play is strong enough. Sufficiently strong role play and pretend is enough to warrant and yield responses. All right, so that's the psychological model. You are elevating yourself. And you use things like sigils to do this. So you're looking at it from the model perspective. When I write a sigil, I'm writing down my intention in a mnemonic form, which I am then embedding into my subconscious to allow it to go and do its thing. When I write out a servitor contract, I am actually embedding a subconscious program. That's what the psychological model will tell you. The deity model, if you write the servitor, is essentially you saying, I am creating an entity that will exist in the spirit realm. The energy model would say, when you create the servitor, I am releasing my energy to go out and create. So depending on which model you're using depends on how you view the magical working you're doing. The fourth model is the information model, and you're going to find this one bizarre because it's the simulation model, kinda. It says the world is a massive information field. You have an information field, I have an information field. The two of us collide, and that information field connects, and we get information from each other. It's very similar to a principle touted by Louis Laval, which says that the mind isn't a place inside your head. It's more like the internet. We all have a shared mind, but because you have a brain, you can connect to the mind and pull things out. It's how things like co-creation happen. So Newton and Leibniz creating calculus at the same time meant either A, they both had exactly the same problems that they needed to solve, or B, that they pulled from the mind, and as they did, the answers came to them at the same time. So essentially, co-creation can be established as a way of looking at the information model and saying, well, the mind must be just like the internet. And if that's the case, then reprogramming the information field around you can be done using a sigil. can be done by creating a servitor, can be done in the form of thought forms, can be done in the form of rituals. You're using words to recreate the information field around you. Now, something like a magic spell or a ritual, if you look at it from the energy model, you are using a ritual inside of the energy model to alter the energies of the universe and absorb more of the good. From a deity model or a spirit model, you are invoking spirits or energies and you're using them in your working. From a psychological model, you're saying, well, a spell or a ritual alters the psychology of me so that I will go out and achieve more. And from the information model, a spell or a ritual literally just says, I am altering my information field so that I can take in more information from a positive perspective. Okay? And then finally, you have the meta model. And the meta model is the one that sits above all the others. What it says is it doesn't matter which model you use. In fact, if you wish, you can use all four at the same time. You can invoke gods. You can believe that what you're doing is allowing the god to alter you in some way, and that through that you can change your information field, allowing positive energies to come into you. There's nothing wrong with that. It can say, well, actually all I want to do is I want to become more attractive, so I will invoke Persephone to bless me. Or I want to protect my family, so I'll invoke Diana, because she is the goddess of the hunt and she will protect me. Or I want to create a servitor that acts as a bloodhound. That information is all there. You can do that. That's not a problem, because the meta model sitting above says it doesn't make a difference which models you use, as long as you believe in them at the time. So the meta model is more one that reminds us that we need to believe, and that we need to believe in what we're doing 100%. So what I'm hoping is that in this short video, you have learned something about the 5 models of magic. Because, as they used to say in the old cartoons, blah, 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 that's all, folks.